Hello, welcome back. It's Russell here again. I can only apologise for the first few videos that I uploaded as Techie Bloke. I think they probably had one view each or something, and looking at them, I can't say I'm surprised. So, quite a big change now. So, when I first posted a few videos about my solar journey, it was all about just trying to save some money with the upcoming electricity price increases that we were told about. It's now 4th of April, so those price rises have kicked in. Seems that the biggest increase is actually the standing charge. So no matter how much solar you've got, if you've got a grid connection, you're still going to be paying more on the standing charge. But that's a side issue. Nothing we can do about that. So as far as the original plan was to install a so-far solar grid-tie inverter, 3.6 kilowatt, which is the most you can have and sort of install yourself to a certain extent with the help of a Sparky. Anything over that, you have to get a professional to install it for you, and not only does that cost a lot more than it would do doing it yourself, you also kind of lose control because they have to lock the inverter configuration, so you can't change it and accidentally feed more power into the grid, etc. So I was going to order the Sofa Solar inverter, but at the time they didn't have any in stock in the UK. There was looks like it was going to be 2 or 3 month waiting list for anything to arrive. So I was a bit frustrated, but as it turns out, gladly so that I didn't actually buy one because I've had a complete rethink of what I want to do now as far as solar goes, and I want to take more of an off-grid approach. It's not obviously true off-grid because we're still connected to the supply, and a lot of the stuff in the house is going to remain connected and powered from the grid. So the lighting circuits and things, they're all LEDs. That's a very minimal cost. As I said before, the biggest cost is the 9 kilowatt shower. I'm not going to even think about trying to power that from an inverter, so that will always be grid tied itself anyway. But what I got to thinking was, having watched a few other channels about sort of off-grid living, particularly the one by Andy in the off-grid garage from sunny hot Australia. His series is really good. Talks about all the different components and how he set up his off-grid garage, and that's got me to thinking maybe I can do something similar here in the UK. Obviously, it's not going to be off-grid and it's not a garage, but what I did realise was that we have a utility room in the house, and the vast majority of our white goods are all in that one room, and that one room is served by a single radial circuit from the distribution box. So what I thought was maybe I could run another radial circuit in parallel to that one that is going to be connected to my inverter. So it's not connected to the grid at all. It purely is that circuit will purely be powered by an inverter, and then I can unplug items from the original circuit that's grid fed into the other circuit that is powered by the inverter, and kind of have a play and see which of those devices I can run reasonably, from the inverter on their own. So there's no chance of any kind of feedback into the grid because the inverter won't be connected to the grid. It'll just be standalone effectively, as it would be in an off-grid environment. So um, that's where I'm currently going at the moment. So I'm looking at, again, still sticking with the Victron Multiplus inverter now rather than the Sofa Solar grid tied. So the Multiplus 2 by default is kind of designed for off-grid use, with the added benefit of being able to plug a shore power, or a generator as they call it, into the AC in. So in an off-grid situation, if you didn't have any sunshine for a few days and your battery got really low, you can plug in a generator into the AC in. The Multiplus will automatically switch off the inverter when that happens, so it's not creating any current that could potentially be fed back into the grid, and the AC in will power your devices, but it will also charge up the battery. So what I'm thinking is doing something similar. Obviously, I won't have a generator plugged into the AC, but I'll have a connection to to the ring main, or maybe a dedicated circuit with a timer on it. So should I need to, I can actually use that to run the appliances that are connected and also charge the battery up if we have a few days or weeks or months, now in the UK, of bad weather, no sun. The battery isn't going to die, so we can charge it up that way, and we still get around the grid tie issues, and I can have, you know, an inverter whatever size I want effectively. I'm thinking initially maybe a 5 kilowatt one, but you know, potentially 8 or even 12, because you're not feeding anything back into the grid. You know, you can do what you want as if you were off grid, but you've kind of got the best of both worlds. You've got some appliances connected to your off grid system, and all the other ones, all the key ones, still connected to the normal grid system. So that's kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. I've not bought anything else yet since I spoke a lot and you didn't listen, which is understandable. So I've got some plywood mounting installed now in the garage, for where the DC breakers and my charge controller and eventually the inverter are going to be mounted. I've got a video just to sort of show you what I've done there. I finally managed to get my two 330 watt panels installed on the veranda roof, with some very DIY brackets and things up there, and I've wired those up, connected them up, run some cable from those in. I've just put them in series for now, run the cables across the side of the house and back into the garage. Again, you'll see that on the other video. So now I just need to mount the breaker box, feed the cables into the breaker, and then obviously the other side of the breaker into the MPPT charge controller. Haven't bought the charge controller yet. I'm thinking of going a 150/35 initially. And then I've been looking at batteries again. I've been looking at Will Prowse's videos about the different batteries. Ultimately, I'm going to need a 48 volt one really, but I think for my sort of initial proof of concept, if you like, I might just go with a 12 volt 100 amp hour battery, SOK, or a Chins if you can get hold of them. The lithium potassium batteries, Life PO4 batteries, seem to be really thin on the ground, certainly in the UK at the moment. But then I'm also going to look at maybe a Renogy 3 kilowatt inverter, again as suggested by Andy in sunny hot Australia. So I think that's probably where I'll start off with a very sort of simple basic system, have a play with it. I should be able to power the washing machine on its own, nothing else, the washing machine initially, and if I'm not running the washing machine, I can certainly run the dishwasher. The washing machine draws about 2.2 kilowatts maximum, and the dishwasher draws about 0.9 kilowatts maximum. So either of those, maybe even potentially both together if I'm careful with the battery sizing and the inverter, but I'm thinking just one at a time. Washing machine gets used probably 3 or 4 times a day during the day, so, and the dishwasher only ever gets used at night, pretty much. Occasionally if we have a big Sunday where we have a full English and a full roast, we sometimes put it on twice a day, but generally speaking the dishwasher goes on at night, so they're not going to be on at the same time normally, the dishwasher and the washing machine. It'll be one or the other, and I think based on what I've seen, the 3 kilowatt inverter should be able to handle those two devices as long as they're not on at the same time. I bought one of those plug-in meters that you can get that tells you how many watts are being used, and the maximum watts and the minimum watts, and also the ampage that's being used. So that's been quite a useful tool. So that's what I'm thinking at the moment. This is the journey, a much more simplified, hopefully less boring video series. This one aside, because the first ones are always a bit boring, but all the other ones will have some more interesting stuff for you to see, and hopefully you guys might take notice and actually watch a few of them. But again, it is what it is. I'm just documenting it really for my own benefit, and anybody else that I know that might be interested can have a look. But that's me rambling for now, so no more techie bloke. This is just the off-grid utility room now. Keep it simple, and catch you on the next one. Cheers.